The governor of Oklahoma has signed into law the most restrictive abortion measure in the U.S. that makes it illegal unless it is a medical emergency. Republican Governor Kevin Stitt signed the bill Tuesday. He said he intends to sign every bill limiting abortion that comes across his desk. Performing an abortion in Oklahoma or attempting to perform one is now a felony with a maximum fine of $100,000, up to 10 years in state prison or both. There are no exceptions in cases of rape or incest. For more, let's bring in CBS News political reporter Caitlin Huey-Burns. Caitlin, thanks for joining us again today. Can you explain how this Oklahoma challenge is arguably the most direct one to Roe versus Wade?
That's exactly right. This is the most restrictive measure that we've seen across the country, and it is the most punitive. You mentioned the fine, the jail time, and unlike some of the other restrictive abortion measures that we've seen pass through Republican legislatures and signed by Republican governors, Texas comes to mind, those limited or banned abortion after a certain number of weeks. This in Oklahoma is an outright ban with very, very few exceptions. So this is a real sign of how Republican state legislatures are really gearing up for the potential of the Supreme Court to overturn Roe v. Wade and make the decision about abortion rights up to the states. So you've had lots of activity by Republican legislatures and by some Democratic ones to shore up abortion rights ahead of this big decision that is slated to come later this summer.
And some states are already taking preventative action, like Michigan, to protect abortion rights. Can you tell us more about those efforts in that state, but also in others?
That's exactly right. In Michigan, Democratic Governor Gretchen Whitmer is suing county prosecutors, and this is in an effort to preserve abortion rights in the event that the Supreme Court overturns Roe v. Wade or dramatically curbs abortion rights in some form. The important thing about Michigan, however, is that while they have a Democratic governor, they have a Republican legislature, so it's going to be difficult for her to pass or to get legislation signed into law. In Colorado, for example, where you have Democrats in control of the governorship and in the legislature, the governor there, Jared Polis, signed a law codifying Roe v. Wade. So if it's overturned or severely gutted, they still will have those protections in place. But in Michigan is one of 26 states across the country where if Roe v. Wade is overturned or dramatically changed, then automatically state laws will likely be triggered, which would institute bans on abortion. So that's what the governor there is trying to protect against. She's also up for re-election this year, which suggests that this is likely to be a huge issue in the midterms, not only for control of Congress, but also in these governor's races and in state legislatures across the country.
And of course, everyone's watching the Supreme Court. Can you tell us about the significance of the Supreme Court decision happening before the midterm elections and how that could have an impact on voters?
Yeah, this is really critical timing because it comes before the midterm elections in the summer. And the big question is kind of who will it galvanize if it does? I looked back at our CBS News polling, and it shows that, 62%, so a majority, favor keeping Roe versus Wade in place. Breaks down on partisan lines. Republicans favor overturning it. Democrats are likely to favor keeping it in place. But it also asks, who would be more likely to vote or turn out and vote if it were overturned. And Democrats, more than Republicans, say that they would be more encouraged to come out and vote in the midterms if Roe v. Wade was overturned. But the big question is whether Democrats can effectively galvanize voters around this issue and around the issue of the courts. As you know, Republicans have been so successful over the years in turning out their base voters on the issue of abortion and turning them out on the issue of the Supreme Court. That was a big way in which Republicans coalesced around Donald Trump in 2016. And so there have been Democratic groups that have sprung up over the past couple of years, really kind of keyed in on these issues, especially around the court. But now that conservatives have the majority on the Supreme Court, this no longer becomes a hypothetical. This is going to be a real issue before the Supreme Court. They have a conservative majority, so there is a real fear among Democrats Democrats about overturning it. So the question is, can they turn out voters for these state legislatures across the country who are going to be really in charge of writing legislation around abortion rights if it is overturned?
Caitlin Huey-Burns, thank you.
Thank you.